Hey, welcome back. I am Basil Fizzleton Smythe, and this is Basil Builds. And tonight we are moving on to the second to last part of this Guncannon build. Now, you'll notice that you'll see my Guncannon is in parts. No, you are not seeing things. This step requires me to take it apart temporarily before putting it back together. And that's because this is the panel lining step. And what that literally means is you're going to take, as you can see, there are lines on this model. And right now you can't really see them very well because they're just the same color as the rest of the plastic around it. Panel lining is a process that literally does what it says it does. You line these panels with a certain tool to make them stand out. And there are a couple ways to do this. Number one is with these specialized panel lining markers. These are essentially really super fine tip markers, very, very fine tip markers. And you use these, you go into all these little nooks and crannies with the markers, and you color them in one at a time. This one's a black marker. There are brown markers and there are gray markers. And that's a pretty good way to do it, except for these tend to wear out pretty quickly. You can see the tip of mine is really bent because I've been using it for a long time. There are other ways to do it as well. Now, there aren't, I wouldn't say that they are more advanced ways. They might be more time consuming, and they don't really, I don't see them as the better way to do them. I tend to like it more. The way that I usually have been doing for a while now is by using an accent color panel line, and is actually ink, like an ink wash. And what you do, this is pretty cool, it comes out in a little tiny brush, right? Teeny tiny brush. Instead of coloring in each and every single one of these panel lines with a pen, you just dab this brush, and because of capillary action, it automatically oozes into place wherever there should be details. This definitely takes a lot less time. As you can see, it just zips along through there. It is definitely much more messy. I will say that. There's a lot more cleanup with this kind of panel lining too. So if you have less patience and you just want to get the job done, then a marker is probably your best bet. If you are obsessive with your detail and you don't mind clean up afterwards, then I would say go for the panel line color wash. There are other things to understand too. This panel line, if you're doing it this way, this particular ink is more like a paint than an ink. This is a really, really washed out paint. And this, if you are not careful, can actually damage the plastic that you're setting it on. I learned that the hard way. What happens is if you put it on pieces of plastic on a model that are very delicate or very small, it can make the plastic brittle, and makes it much easier to snap. And unfortunately, I broke a couple of my models pretty badly because of that, because I hadn't realized that. I didn't realize that you had to use a lighter touch as a result. So that's a lesson that I learned the hard way, which is also why I keep modeling glue on me now, to make sure that I clean up any messes that I create myself. And speaking of messes, this leg is coming along really well so far. Now, panel lining is not necessarily as obvious on darker colored kits like this one. If you had a kit that's a lighter color, you can see it on the lighter parts of the model here, it shows up a lot better. That being said, it does do a lot to add depth to your model, creates the illusion of shadow, and it makes it look more like an actual model kit than just kind of a toy, which it can look otherwise without the panel lining. The other thing you have to worry about this stuff is this stuff gets absolutely everywhere unless you let it dry. So what I'm going to do, since I have to get the bottom of the foot now, I'm actually going to transfer this to my tweezers. And these are cool because these are reverse tweezers. If you squeeze them, they open, and if you let go, they shut. So that actually gives you a little extra oomph here. You can hold them easily. And then you can finish the spot that you were going to try to get beforehand. You'll probably see it much more clearly on the feet here, because I've got all this detail on the feet. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, why are you doing the feet? I mean, it's the bottom of the model. Nobody's going to see it. Yeah, well, I'm going to know it's there, and I know that if I don't do it, is going to annoy me. And also, I like the way that the panel lining brings out the details in the feet. And you can also lift up the feet when you're displaying it, and you could show what the foot looks like. You don't have to worry about it not looking well. So this is basically the whole panel lining process. You go around each piece one by one. You make sure that all the proper spots are outlined where they should be. You dab a little bit of this wash on there. You'll see there'll be some runoff. And what you do, after you finish this, piece by piece, you just do all of them together. Now, I'm probably not going to do every single one of these on camera because that could be really time consuming. But I'll do a few, and then I will show you guys at the end what it looks like. So this is pretty much the entire right foot is done and ready to be given some time to dry. And it's very important that you let these guys dry completely, because if you don't dry these guys completely before you go to clean up the mess, like the excess and everything, it will streak like crazy and it will make your hard work look like crap. So all you do is take a couple paper towels or something, lie them on top, and just let them rest for a while. Okay, so then I will go on and start another piece. So, and then just going to repeat the process. This is literally not the most glamorous part of model building, but it's sometimes the most rewarding part, especially because you are getting to see these models come alive in front of your face as far as details go. The only other step after this really would be putting decals on, and both decals and panel lining are completely optional, especially since many kits just don't even come with any decals, and that's fine. And if you don't want to put the decals that come with it, that's fine too. A lot of people like to skip the decals because it makes their model look more anime accurate, since most anime mecha don't go crazy on the detailing, simply because it would be impossible to animate every time they show it on screen. At the time, some people really like to dress up their mecha as much as they possibly can, and I'm kind of in the second camp of that. I mean, I like detail. That kind of gets me going. It's really interesting to put a lot of detail on there. Makes me happy. So I tend to use panel lining and decals as well. So I was kind of glad to see how many decals were in this kit. And now I'm going to switch to my tweezers again to finish the manipulator on this thing. And so you will notice that this is a solo episode right now. Eleanor is not with us tonight, and no, it's not because she dropped the F-bomb last time. Though I gave her a good scolding about that, though it's very hard not to laugh at her. But it's because, well, number one, I'm up past her bedtime, and then there's a school day tomorrow. Even though she is on the all-virtual school program for coronavirus, she still needs to get up early because she meets with her class over Zoom or Google Classroom, whatever. That has to happen every day. And I'm filming this Sunday night, so Monday morning is, school. And also because this stuff that I'm using, the panel line accent color, you can definitely smell that it's some sort of acetate-based something. It's got a bit of a stink to it. Not as bad as like maybe airplane glue or something like that. But the things that I use to clean up this when we're done, it's some pretty heavy-duty thinner. I'm using Mr. Color Thinner 400 from Mr. Hobby, which is the Krios Corporation's hobby department. It is basically isobutyl alcohol, propanol, and ethanol. So it's really good at cleaning messes up. It's also really, really, really stinky. So if you're one of those people who can't stand to have the windows closed while you're cleaning, if you're cleaning your kitchen with bleach or whatever, you're gonna not like this stuff. A lot of people will wear face masks while they're doing this. A lot of people will leave the window open. It's winter right now, so I'm not a big fan of leaving the window open. Some people even go as far as to do this outside. In nice weather, you can do this outside. You can also do it inside a a spray booth, a spray booth for miniatures if you do airbrushing, which I have, but I'm not set up because this part doesn't really bother me, and no one else is up right now besides me, so it's not that big a deal. So, and if it gets bad, I'll usually just open a window for a little bit. Okay, looks like the waist is pretty much done. And then let's move on again. What do we have next? We have the other leg. Do that. So yes, Eleanor is not joining us today. Sorry to disappoint all of her many fans out there. I know how much you guys love to listen to her chat away at everything, and that's fine. She's hilarious. She cracks me and her mother up all the time when she's not driving us crazy. But you know, what parent won't say the same about their kid, right? We love her. They just drive us crazy sometimes. And, you know, everybody's been cooped up because of coronavirus. So we try our best to find ways to keep her occupied, which is why she's been hitting the Girl Scouts so hard. And thank you for everyone who bought cookies. And for everyone who hasn't bought cookies yet, what are you waiting for? No, I don't get the money. She doesn't get the money. She gets the Girl Scouts get the money. And they do nice things for the kids then. So those cookies are nice, aren't they? I'm not going to lie. I mean, are they as cheap as I'd like them to be? Not really. But it's probably good that they're not all that expensive, because otherwise I would be ordering box after box after box and just hoarding them. And that would not be good for anybody. Alright, let me switch this guy to the bottom here so I can get his bottom of his little feet here. See all the detail come to life with this stuff. Now what I will do is I will clean off one of these. Show you what it looks like clean. I'm sure the first one is probably dry enough to clean carefully. Otherwise not, then you'll see how I deal with streaks. But and then after that, I will not make you sit through the entire process. I will cut the video there, and then I'll show you when it's all put together and cleaned up what it looks like and why panel lining is one of my favorite things to do. So let's see. And the good thing about this stuff is you can be pretty broad. If you don't mind cleaning up afterwards, you can use pretty broad strokes for the stuff. I mean, this stuff lasts. Little of this stuff goes a long way. So you just have to realize that you're making more work for yourself on cleanup, which is fine. If you're fine with that, then go ahead, go do it. All right, so this guy is done now. This other leg is done. And I'm going to go back to the first leg, check that, see if that's ready to be cleaned up. I'm closing the Mr. Thinner, the panel line accent color, very tightly, because you do not want that stuff getting everywhere. Trust me, you do not want it getting everywhere. It is, oof. All right, let's see this guy here. All right, is this guy dry? Almost. You don't want to really push it. Yeah, it's still a little wet. Okay. What we're going to do instead then is we'll do some of the accessories while we wait. I will take apart the shield. And this is actually, you can see on the white of the shield, you'll see how much the details come up when you do this. And I just spilled some. See? This is why you work with lots of paper towels. And on a cutting board instead of on your dining room table, which would have been a big mess. And it would definitely have been yelled at, because the stuff does not come out very easily unless you use rubbing alcohol. So, let's see, this just kind of drops in place. Now, if you really, really don't mind cleaning up, you give it a big fat dollop like that, and you can just brush it all around. This is definitely going to take lots of cleanup, though. And then I hear people saying, why are you doing the underside of the shield? Nobody's going to see that. Like, nobody's going to know that it's there. We're like, yeah, well, I'll know it's there. It's going to bother me. It's my freaking model, and I can do it however I want to do it. Like, don't feel like you have to do it the way I do it. You have to do it the way somebody else tells you to do it. This is all about doing it the way you want to do it and how to enjoy your modeling experience. There's an old adage that gunplay is freedom, and it's absolutely true. You are free to design and create however you like. And that's exactly what this is about. It is freedom to redesign anything. You can do custom jobs. You can give custom paint jobs to your mecha. You can kit bash them, which is when you take pieces from a bunch of kits and stick them together to make a new kit altogether. You can create custom parts out of other pieces of plastic. Anything you want to do, you can, and that's what it means when it says gunplay is freedom. So, all right, this is what we're going to do now. I'm going to set up some Mr. Color thinner here, and I usually just use the cap to pour a little in. Just enough. There we go. And I really shouldn't use the cap. I should use probably like a smaller bottle or something, and then put the cap back on. And really, this process relies entirely on how many of these cotton buds you feel like using. You can go through a lot. If you're being really, really careful, you will go through a lot. If you're being less careful, you go through a few less, and you'll you won't do as good a job, but you'll be done quicker. So let's take this guy here, and since I started at the top, what you do is just rub across, and you gently rub the excess away, and what's left over is just what you want. And then all you have left is just what's in the little crevices that you originally wanted them to be in. So as you can see, the top part of the leg is cleaned up. You don't need much pressure at all to clean it up. As you can see now, the top is shiny because it's wet, but the excess is gone. And then you'll see I'll clean up over here too, where it was a big spill. Clean up a little bit of that too, right? Just give a good little wipe. Find a spot that's not been dirtied on your cotton bud. And if you wanted, you can keep going on this cotton bud, but I'm going to switch it over and use the other end so that I don't end up just moving half-dry ink around. You can see, so it comes off pretty easy, and all that's left is the nooks and crannies that have been brought to life, just like that. And you can then pick up with your tweezers, flip it upside down, refresh that rubbing alcohol at the end here, and let's see if we can clean these up a little bit. You can see that blue is coming back out, and just the lines are going away. There is pretty much how you do that. And then you clean up the other edges. Make sure that you don't leave any spots dirty, because then you'll kick yourself later when you put it on your shelf and you realize there's a spot missing. Because it shows up very, very, very clearly on white pieces, you can see here. Get a little bit more rubbing alcohol there. As you can see, just close this guy here. And when in doubt, always use a fresh cotton bud, because otherwise you're just moving old ink around. You're just moving wet ink around on wet plastic, and that's not going to help anybody out. You're just going to look gross. So, there we go. That's pretty much how panel lining goes. And I will stop here and then fast forward to when everything is panel lined and put together, and I'll show you how it looks at the end. All right, we're back, and you can see the panel lining has been done. You can see that there is a big difference if you take a look at how he looked originally and how he looks now. But the biggest difference you're going to see next time when we start putting on our decals. That is going to make the biggest difference ever. So, as always, this is Basil Thistleton Smythe. Hoping you guys have a great time, and see you next time. And maybe next time I'll have Eleanor around, though I wouldn't count on it the way she curses. Good night, guys.